Here we go. All right. Hello and welcome to another Sewing Boss interview. I'm here with Laura and her business is Hartford Stitch. Is that right?
That's
Hartford
right, yes.
Stitch? Is that the way you like to say it?
There's only one way to say it. Yeah, that's it.
All right, cool. Well, I never know if you add sewing studio at the end or...
Yeah, I mean, online, I think it says your local sewing studio, but
All right, awesome.
Stitches.
All right. So you're in West Hartford or you're in Hartford?
I'm in West Hartford. West Hartford is kind of like a suburb of Hartford.
Okay.
I'm about half a mile down the road from Hartford.
Okay.
The original dream,
what?
I'm sorry, the original dream was to be in Hartford, but most of my clientele is here, so I ended up.
Okay, gotcha. What type of like environment is it? It's kind of suburbs with like houses and families, or is it more urban? What's West Hartford like?
Yeah, so West Hartford is technically a small city. It has I know you can't do that. It has its own downtown and school system and everything else. It is very close to Hartford, but it really operates completely separate from Hartford.
Okay.
But if we were around any other big city, we would consider ourselves a suburb.
Gotcha. Okay. And what type of environment is your studio? Is it in a building? Is it a storefront? Is it in a house?
So it's in a building. I'm in a really cool part of West Hartford. It's a little funkier. It's really a mix of residential and commercial. So there's one big commercial street, and then, I mean, if I look this way, I see a car place, and if I look that way, I see all houses in a neighborhood. So it's a nice kind of combination, a lot of independently owned stores and coffee shops and restaurants. And my particular building formerly it's like a 3-floor house that was converted at some point in time into offices. So technically my studio is like 2 bedrooms in the former house.
Oh, that's
like
cool.
Down the hall has like a full tub in it, which is kind of bizarre. But a family owned it, and it was for all of their businesses. They were travel agents and insurance people. And then as those businesses sort of dissolved, they've now turned it into separate office spaces.
So are they still in one of the floors, or what are the
bottom floor?
Okay, and then what else?
And then I have one space up here. There's an art therapist, and then more of a regular therapist, and then a PR person. It's all women-owned businesses on my floor, and they're actually all my friends, which worked out well. I was the first one here, and then
and you brought them in.
Oh yeah, I was like, oh, you need space? I got space. You
so smart.
So it's nice because it's pretty close knit and level, but we're up on the 2nd floor, so we have our own private entrance on the side, and then the 3rd floor is occupied by somebody else. I don't really know. He does bookstores or something.
Okay, cool. Wow, great environment. I love it.
Yeah, it's a really fun environment.
Yeah. So are you open like kind of regular hours, or are you just open when you have classes? How do you do it?
Yeah, I'm open when I have classes. I'm not open regular hours. My other full-time job is stay-at-home mom. So I am here when I have classes. I do classes Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday after school. And then this quarter, Tuesdays and Thursdays extend into the evening for adult classes.
Okay.
And then your Saturday mornings-ish for more classes.
Okay.
And other than that, it's closed down. I don't really have a retail I have a very small retail section for students to like pick up this, pick up that, but nothing that's supporting a retail section.
No, I think that's really smart. That's exactly what I do too. I'm on the 3rd floor, and it's like I have fabric for people who don't get their act together before they come to class. And it's like, here's what I've got. I'm not a fabric store, but and that helps to have something for people. It's convenient.
And I feel like you can get, for my classes, I do a lot of adult workshops, and you can get that last minute person. If you say, well, don't worry, you don't have to go to the fabric store to get your zippers and interfacing and fabric, I'll get you covered.
Yes.
So that does, I think, help a little bit.
Yeah. And then you're not overwhelmed with inventory. I've talked to so many like fabric stores that then teach classes. And I think that that's a really, really hard way to teach sewing, because every dime you make, you're sort of putting it back into the business to keep buying more inventory and patterns and fabric. And, you know, you're running a quilt market. And,
yeah, it's not, that was, I actually started this business with a partner, and that had been our plan. Our goal was to have a fabric store. And we thought we could do the like buy, you know, a dozen bolts and start selling online and then get more until we have enough for a store, which used to be how you could do it. Like when people realized you could sell fabric on Etsy.
Right.
But you're making like a couple of dollars on a yard of fabric.
And it's work too.
Much of it. I was like, this is hard.
Yeah. You're helping them. You have to be there open just so somebody comes in. No, that was the same sort of thought process I had as well. And then you realize pretty quickly, you're like, I got to do something or I'm not going to stay in business. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So how long have you been doing this?
So Hartford Stitch has been open a little over 2 years. It was 2 years in June. When I started, I was nomadic. I did not have a home, so I did private lessons in people's houses. I connected really early on with a local dance teacher at a dance studio. And so I rented space from her. So I was driving and setting up there a couple times a week. I did sewing parties in different businesses. So that was the first year.
Okay.
And pretty quickly I realized that that was not going to be sustainable. It was a great way to figure out what direction I wanted to take this in.
Yeah. What did you find wasn't sustainable of doing it that way?
Well, I would schlep all 5 machines, at least 2 suitcases, plus my pressing boards to the studio, which was in my town. I mean, it took 15 minutes to get there.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to bring everything in. It was a kids' dance studio, so I had to set up folding tables and the chairs. And then we'd have the class, and then everything would have to be broken back down again and put in my car. And that alone would take an hour after class was done just to get back to my house.
Yeah.
And then you have to organize it because, you know, you're like throwing things in just to get out the door.
Right.
And it was too much. It was exhausting. I wasn't getting home till 10:30 at night. It just wasn't going to work. I knew that I had to find like a permanent space if I was going to make this work in the long term.
Totally. Okay.
Yeah. So.
And there's so much stuff involved with sewing too.
Well, and I would do, you know, we'd be in the middle of a class and be like, oh my God, I forgot my hand sewing needles.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Sorry, guess you can't sew on that button to finish your project, you know, and little things like that. Or there was no way to really sell. Like I couldn't have anything on the walls for people to look at and be like, oh, I want to make that next.
Right.
So it was very insular, and it was a great business model to start with.
Yeah, totally.
Let me get my feet underneath me, but it just couldn't, for what I wanted to do, it couldn't last.
And you mentioned that you had a partner. Is that how you kind of started with your partner, or was that after you would work?
Yeah, so we started the business in the way that they tell you absolutely don't start your business. Like we didn't really have a super great idea about what we wanted to do.
Oh, like a business.
What's that?
Like a business plan? Like everyone's like, write down your business plan. Yeah. No.
We were both stay-at-home moms. We both had an older kid and then a younger child around the same age, and we both love sewing and we both love fabric. And she had a pretty and has a pretty successul specialty fabric store online. And we're like, well, this would be fun. Let's just kind of figure it out. We'll throw in some money and buy some machines. And when we started, we're like, we'll do parties like paint night style. And then we realized how hard the fabric selling business is. Uh-huh. And that was her interest. And I realized how much I really loved to teach, and she did not. And so she kind of about 4 months after was like, you know what, this isn't what I want to do anymore. And so I took it over and cut out the fabric sales part and kind of reformulated everything to be focused more on actual instruction.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
Well, it worked out for both of you, it sounds like. Yeah.
In a situation where we could kind of see how, just throw things against the wall and see how it goes. It wasn't like
Totally.
we didn't have to make a profit immediately type thing.
Right.
Lucky to do.
Yeah, totally. Good. All right. So where did you learn how to sew? And then, have you done it your whole life, or is it something that you came back to later in life, or what's your sewing story?
So my sewing story is I always thought my mom had taught me how to sew. She had a Singer machine in her bedroom closet and a big box of fabric. And I have very clear memories of sewing a skirt. It was white, had red polka dots, and we tried it on and realized it was see-through. I mean, I couldn't have been that old. And making pillowcases. But about 6 months after I opened Stitch, my mom asked me who taught me how to sew. So she apparently does not have the same memories that I do.
Okay.
So I think the answer probably is home ec, family and consumer sciences in high school.
She could have still taught
where I caught the bug, and then what's that?
Still taught you and just maybe not remembered.
Yeah, no, it's possible.
Okay.
It's one of the old singers, with the the dials, and it was how I figured out how to thread it. I'm not sure. But so from there, I'm self-taught. I think I made my first quilt when I was 16. I made my homecoming dress, and it would kind of go in and out based on where I lived, if I had room to set up a machine or have fabric. And it wasn't until a year or so after my son was born that I realized that there was all this great. No, that's not true. That's not true at all, because I had an Etsy business selling kitchen textiles that I sewed, so aprons and dish towels and stuff. And so that was in 2008 or 9, I think. And so I think that's really when I kind of started up again and started realizing that there was all these great resources of information online. And that kind of exploded in my sewing world.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So you've kind of always done it.
Yeah, I have. It doesn't feel like that because I think I've kind of gone through waves, but I'd say in the past 10 years, it's been pretty consistent.
Okay. So are you doing all of the teaching, all of the business now? It's just you?
Just me. I do some guest teachers for non-sewing things. So I have a guest teacher that teaches crochet and another one for weaving. Right now, it's all me.
Yeah.
All me. The goal in about 2 or 3 years, when this little one starts preschool, would be to have another after-school teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be a little bit more either on Saturdays or after school, but that's what we're working towards right now. Not quite there.
Okay, good. All right. What piece of advice would you give to somebody that's starting something similar? Not even necessarily a sewing studio, but a business teaching someone how to do something kind of like what we do.
A business teaching someone something we do.
Or even someone starting a business. So, is there a piece of advice that you're because I'm sure you get asked quite a bit, like you even mentioned somebody in California had reached out to you. What do you tell people?
Networking is huge. I think that was one of the things that really got us going, was making connections. So the very first day that we opened, we have a really active town Facebook page, and I posted on there and I said, I'm teaching sewing. And that's when the owner of the dance studio reached out to me. And then, so that was huge for kind of figuring out what we were doing. And then we did do parties, sewing night type parties at local businesses. And that networking was huge because they would advertise the party to their customers. We're advertising them to our customers. So it was really a win-win. We're getting people in their door. They're getting people in our door, which didn't entirely exist. But that was really big, that kind of collaborations. Yeah. And I think most businesses, can be really helpful because you're not just an island in the the business world.
Totally. And it sounds like you did a lot of networking sort of online, not necessarily like go to like a networking night and drink wine and cookies and crackers. It was more networking online, which I think it tends to be a little bit more right now.
Yeah, well, I think you can kind of start to build the relationship there and then and go from, I think, Instagram is great for that. So you just kind of stalk people that you think might have a good connection with you or your business and sort of at least build up a name recognition.
Right.
So that when you reach out to them to do a collaboration or to do whatever, it's not like a cold call.
Right.
At least they acknowledge who you are.
You're clicking like on their photos so they at least recognize your name.
Yes, the name is totally new to them. Yeah, I think that's huge.
No, it totally is, because it's funny. I think back when I first started my business, and it was about 18, I don't know, like 17 years ago or something. And it was very different. I was making bags and I was, everyone kind of goes through that transformation. But when I started it was like I had to go to these actual like events, and it was like, you're meeting this person in town and you're meeting this person. And they were great. And I established this huge group of women business owners who were my friends for, they're still my friends. But I was in my 20s, and it was fun. And that was like a thing. Now I've got absolutely no desire to go, it's like 6 o'clock and I'm like, or 7 o'clock and I'm like, I'm home for the evening. I can't even imagine. So it's lovely that the networking has changed, and you can do it sort of from your computer and doesn't have anything.
It's hugely helpful. And what you're doing, I mean, and bringing these sewing teachers together, might not be driving business necessarily, but Yolanda at Sew Houston, she was one of the first people I ever reached out to when I started, just to say, like, I think I want to do what you're doing. Can I pick your brain?
Oh,
and she
really? Oh,
yeah. And then poor Jessie Anderson at Needle Ink and Thread, I think I've emailed her like 100 times. Like, you have guest teachers. Can you tell me what you do? And if it weren't for social media, I wouldn't know about these people. I wouldn't know what they do, and they may not feel like they have a connection with me, but I feel like I have a connection with them enough to reach out to them.
No, totally. And I'm sure that's how I even found you, because it's all like Instagram circles,
Right.
like because I follow them, then and I got to meet both of them in Houston a year ago, so that was great too, because it's when you finally meet that person that you've seen doing all these things, and you're like, oh my god, I'm doing these things too. And I guess it's funny because there's not going to be another sewing studio in your town, or maybe there is. I just think it's such a small kind of niche thing that is there really room for 2 studios in one town? So to find somebody exactly what you're, doing what you're doing locally is not, for me, is not going to happen. I mean, a little bit, but so it's great.
I agree. And I personally feel like the local quilting stores are very nice people, but they approach things a little bit differently than I do. Yeah. And it's a little more cutthroat and like old school sewing.
Ooh, and, okay.
I mean, very nice people, but like somebody sent me a recommendation, I wrote back, or a referral, and I wrote back, so like, thank you so much. And I send people to all the time, and she's like, yeah, we decided not to do what you're doing, so we were okay sending that. It's like, oh. I still appreciate it, thank you. So it's like a different, it's a different feel.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Well, it's funny because competition is like a funny thing, and I don't know. I'm in a building where it is completely blown up. Like, everybody and their brother has kid and adult classes of some kind, and so I'll talk with other owners who've been around a little longer, and they're just like, I can't believe it, another art studio, another coding studio, blah blah blah, and it's like, it is what it is, and you can either like get mad about it that, maybe someone's going to sign up for an art class versus a sewing class, or you can just do what you do and do it really well. And you're going to keep the students that want to continue with you. They might take a semester off and try something new, but if you're offering a good thing and not getting all kind of wrapped up in the competition, they'll be back, as long as you're offering a good class, right?
Well, and you don't want a student that doesn't want to be there.
Right.
I, for 2 years now, done a home ec camp through the community center. And last year was pretty great. The first year I was still really new. And obviously kids whose parents were like, you need this, I'm signing you up for it. But they didn't want to be sewing. And it was
really
like half sewing, half cooking. And I taught the sewing part. And yeah, they just didn't care. And it was much more difficult, not nearly as fun to teach. And so I don't want anybody to be forced to sew.
That's interesting, because I always think, I don't teach math. I'm never going to get a kid that doesn't want to be there. But who's signing their kid up for sewing if they don't want to take it? Like, someone thinks that this is a skill that they need?
Yeah. I think,
that's interesting.
I mean, home ec is one of my, like, I could go off forever about how I think it's horrible that it's out of schools. And I don't think necessarily that kids have to learn how to sew. It'd be nice if they knew how to sew on a button just to survive. I have an adult friend that was telling me she was getting rid of a shirt because the button finally popped off. And I was like, let me help you. So I think they signed him up for that. And yeah, it's funny. My stepmother is an art teacher, and she says that during the school year, she has the students that don't want to be in art class.
Right.
She's in school. But when she does the art camps in the summer, she gets the kids that love art, and it's so much fun to teach it. And I feel like I was like on the reverse that one year. But yeah, to your point, you know, there's so many different things. And if you know that you have a good product and you're confident in your product and in yourself, and you're confident to sell it and find the people that are supposed to be your customers, then you'll have a lot more success, and you'll feel good about it, which this is my third business. And the first 2 times I didn't have that. And I definitely think that's why this one is much more successful, is I'm perfectly happy going to bat as to why people should come to learn and sew. Whereas the other ones I was a little less confident.
Okay. Yeah, totally. All right. So, obviously we've got to do a lot of marketing because we want to get people in the door and taking our classes. What are some of the things that you found to be most successful in your marketing for your classes?
My newsletter is probably the number one. I try to send it out once a week. I was actually just watching yesterday your virtual coffee date about the email marketing, and I'm going to change some things up because I'm really picture heavy, and that probably explains why things are not, I'm not getting quite the response I want from it.
And I did the same thing, because you think, I got to show what this thing looks like. I got to show my studio. I got to show all these pretty things because that's what we do. But then no one can see it. The email, it is a wake up call to go, oh shoot, wow, I've been doing it wrong for a little while, or not wrong, but it could be better.
It's a lot easier.
Yeah.
But I do, like, if I send out a newsletter, I usually get at least a couple of sales from that, usually per week, which is pretty.
Isn't that the best feeling? You send out a little email and you're like, cha-ching. It's just, oh, I love that. That's one of the best.
Yes. So that's a big one. Getting people to sign up for the newsletter is still a work in progress. I mean, I have a pretty decent mailing list, but I could use some more. That's big. Facebook events are pretty big, I think, just for sharing information around. I noticed that in your virtual coffee day too. I do a Facebook event for everything.
Awesome.
For classes, they now have a new setup that if it's like a 6-week class, you can put that in. So it says it in 6 weeks. And it's not necessarily that it just keeps, I think, things top of mind, because then if you comment in that, if someone says they're interested and I write a comment in there, it pops up in their notifications.
Okay.
If they like it gets shown on their Facebook feed. So it's like, it does spread, and then you can get people to comment, like, especially for kids classes, like, this is what I was talking about, so-and-so. So I have found that that's been growing steadily. And that's very much a numbers game. You know, you might say you have 15 people interested and you might get 1 sign up if you're lucky.
Right.
But at least it's just another thing of getting out there. And then word of mouth. Word of mouth is huge for me. And I've had some luck, like I said, on that local town page, very loyal customers that are willing to, like, jump on there and say, I just took a class. I mean, I don't ask them to, they do it. I took a class to go here. And especially in the beginning, I got huge surges of signups from that.
Okay.
And when I got my studio, I had to did a couple of press releases to local news, print out. One was a print newspaper specific to my town, and one was like an online blog, and they both did stories. And that was over a year ago, and I still get calls about the one that was in the newspaper.
Good.
Mostly like older ladies wanting to donate fabric, but clearly they read it.
What's your stance on fabric donations?
You know,
Come on, you like vintage.
I do, and that's the problem, is that
Me too.
I want to accept all of them, but I have so much in my attic right now. First of all, I can't keep it in the studio. I just don't. It's a 150 square foot studio. There's no room.
Okay.
But every once in a while I give in, and I did recently give in, and the fabric itself wasn't great, but I got this huge box of zippers and a huge box of thread. Yep. It's not really usable, but I have one of those wreaths.
Yeah, those ones.
And then, you know what, I have a bunch of people locally that either teach sewing like in schools or at museums that I'll contact, and they'll take the fabric off my hands really quickly. So and I do take some for like if I have Girl Scout troops in here to do charity sewing so that they don't have to pay. But I was really strict for a very long time that I wasn't going to take fabric donations, and now I've kind of been
yeah. Oh, I love it. It's
You take all donations?
No, I mean, not necessarily. I mean, I guess I don't say no, but I'm really good about, you know, if it's something I know that I can't use, I will put it on free cycle and just put it outside of my studio. It's a pretty high traffic building.
Oh, so that's nice.
It'll be gone. As long as I post something, people come and snatch it up. So if it's something I can't use, I'll pass it along to somebody who can, you know, because I feel like so many people, it's estates of, you know, people who've sewn their whole lives. They've, you know, and I was just at a woman's house who's going into assisted living, and there's like a level of respect that you're just like, this person has sewn her whole entire life. She has boxes of thread of every single color. And yes, some of it's usable, some of it's not. You know, I want to find a home for it because, you know, chances are her kids are just going to like donate it to the Salvation Army or throw it in the garbage or whatever. So if I can figure, you know, and it's work, but there's a pull. And then you find stuff that you're just like, oh, I can't live without that. And there was a huge box of zippers, binding tape. I love binding tape.
I love that now, yeah.
Oh my God. We use it a lot in the studio.
Do you?
Totally. It's a cheater way to like turn armholes and neck. I use it all the time. It's so like, I guess it's so old school, but it's an easy way to kind of teach people how to finish things.
Yeah, I'm gonna look into that. That's smart. Yeah, I think that actually a lot of the donations I get are, my mom was this amazing sewist, and I'm so glad you're doing this for the younger generation. So there's like this emotional connection for them to the stuff that I don't want to be like, sorry, but your mom had a great sewist. So yeah, I've been thinking more and more, and it's a good way to build relationships. And
and it's so, I love to see like a kid who just finished a project in some crazy 60s fabric that, you know, has been in someone's attic, and you're just like, wow, that person, you know, if they're not alive, maybe they're looking down and going, oh, look at this kid wearing this fabric. You know, there's something special about that. So yeah, I'm a sucker for fabric donations. All right. I always like to end with, I love to read business books. I don't know, do you read business books and entrepreneurial books, or even sewing books or crafting books? Anything you've read?
I've been doing more business podcasts.
Oh, good. Me too. Okay.
When I can. I mean, I say that as if I have time to do it. Like, a month I listen to a podcast.
Okay. What are you listening to?
Is it Gold Digger? Jenna Kutcher?
Yeah.
She's fantastic, except I always listen to her while I'm doing something else, and then I get totally derailed from what I was doing to like start making all these notes about how I have to like totally revamp my Instagram and totally revamp my Facebook and
pinning on Pinterest. Just keep pinning.
Not doing it right. But I feel like she has been she just gives information in a good way, that a lot of it, and it makes sense. And you're like, oh, why didn't I think of that?
Yeah.
So that's a good one. What else do
You listen to any of the sewing podcasts?
So I listen to Crafty Planner.
Yeah.
Right?
I haven't listened to it in a long time. Yeah.
Love her.
You do? Okay.
I love her conversations. I love the way she goes about it.
She gets good people.
She gets great people. And this sounds really bad. I really like her voice.
Do you?
Podcast. I won't name it.
That's a big deal.
Content, but like 10 minutes in, I'm like, I just can't listen to this for another hour. But she gets great people. I think she has great conversations. She asks such good questions. It's not just like the usual.
Yeah.
Those are the two that, and Abby Glassenberg while she naps.
Okay.
That was huge, especially when I was starting.
Yeah.
I thought that was a great podcast. So when I have time, that's it. I buy craft books like it's my job. I just realized I ordered one. I was like, yes, I don't have this. And then I got into the studio today. I was like, I had it. I think I might have paid like a premium on Amazon because I was like, I couldn't get it anywhere else.
That's awesome.
A little like overflowing on those.
All right. Well, hey, yeah. And do you collect vintage craft books as well? Do you like those as much as cookbooks or no?
Okay.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah.
Yep. All right, cool. Thank you so much. This has been really fun. And I will, I'll probably post it by the end of the day, I'm thinking. I haven't posted one in a while, so I'll get it up there. Really appreciate you talking to me.
Oh, my pleasure.
And stay in touch.
Yeah, thank you. All right, we'll talk soon.
Okay. Bye.